I didn't think anything of it the first time she said it. It's just a work dinner, Lauren told me, already halfway into her heels, brushing past me with that faint citrus perfume she always wore when she wanted to feel confident. You know how it is. Clients, small talk, boring stuff. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, pretending to finish up emails I'd already sent an hour ago. I remember glancing up, catching the way she avoided eye contact just a second too long. Not enough to trigger anything, just enough to leave a trace in the back of my mind. "Yeah," I said, nodding. "Don't stay out too late." She gave me that quick smile, the one that used to make me feel like I'd won something, like I'd been chosen. Then she grabbed her purse and was gone. The apartment felt too quiet after the door shut. We'd been together 5 years at that point, lived in that same downtown Chicago apartment for 3 of them. We had routines, patterns, the kind of small, predictable rhythms you stop noticing until something slips out of place. That night, nothing felt obviously wrong, but something was off. She came home around 11:30, not late enough to question, not early enough to feel normal. She kicked off her heels by the door, exhaled like she just survived something exhausting, and dropped her phone on the kitchen counter. "How was it?" I asked. "Fine," she said quickly. Too quickly. Then she softened it with a shrug. "You know, same corporate nonsense." She poured herself a glass of water, avoiding my eyes again. I remember watching her from the couch, noticing how she kept her body angled slightly away from me, like she was guarding something. It wasn't proof. It wasn't even close. But it was the first time I felt that quiet, uncomfortable shift in my gut, the kind you try to ignore because the alternative is too ugly to even consider. Over the next couple of weeks, the work dinners became more frequent. At first it was once every 2 weeks, then once a week. Then suddenly it felt like every few days she had somewhere to be. Always the same explanation: client dinner, team bonding thing, last-minute meeting that turned into drinks. And every time she'd leave dressed just a little nicer than she needed to. Not over the top, not suspicious in a way you could call out without sounding paranoid, but enough that it didn't quite line up with the version of the night she was describing. I started noticing the small details. She'd take her phone everywhere, even to the bathroom, even when she was just grabbing a glass of water from the kitchen. Lauren had never been like that before. We used to leave our phones lying around without thinking about it. Sometimes we'd even use each other's phones to look something up or send a quick text. Now her phone might as well have been glued to her hand. One night, about a month into this new routine, I woke up around 2 a.m. and she wasn't in bed. At first I thought she was in the bathroom, but the light was off. I got up, walked into the living room, and saw the faint glow of her phone lighting up her face. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, hunched forward, typing fast. When she heard me, she jumped. Actually jumped. "Jesus, you scared me," she said, pressing the phone to her chest like she was hiding it. "Who are you texting it to in the morning?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. She hesitated. Just for a second. "Work," she said. "Something came up with a client. I didn't want to wake you." I stared at her. Not accusing. Not yet. Just watching. "Since when do clients text you at 2 a.m.? She rolled her eyes, a little too aggressively. "It's called different time zones, Mark. Not everyone works 9 to 5. That was the first time she made me feel stupid for asking a normal question. And it worked. I backed off, mumbled something like, "Yeah, that makes sense," and went back to bed. But I didn't fall asleep for a long time, because now that feeling in my gut wasn't quiet anymore. It was louder, heavier, harder to ignore. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because here's the thing about being in a long-term relationship. You build this entire mental structure around trust, and tearing it down isn't something you do lightly. Your brain will fight you. It'll offer explanations, excuses, alternative narratives just to keep that structure standing. She's stressed. Work is getting intense. You're overthinking this. So I let it go, at least on the surface. Underneath, though, I started paying attention. I noticed she started going to the gym more, but not with me anymore. She used to drag me along on weekends. Now she'd go alone, usually in the evenings. Her outfits changed too. Subtle at first. Slightly tighter dresses, heels more often, even on days when she claimed she'd just be in the office all day. And then there were the calls. She'd step out onto the balcony to take them, or she'd wait until I was in the shower, or asleep. Every time I walked into the room unexpectedly, the conversation would end immediately. "Hey, I'll call you back." Click. At some point, I stopped pretending I didn't notice, but I still didn't have anything concrete. Nothing I could point to and say, "This is happening." Until the night everything shifted from suspicion to something else entirely. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had an early meeting the next morning, and I'd already told her I was going to bed early. She was getting ready to go out again. "Work dinner?" I asked, leaning against the bedroom doorframe. "Yeah," she said, not looking at me as she adjusted her earrings in the mirror. "Big client, kind of important." "What client?" That made her pause. Just for a second. Then she shrugged. "You wouldn't know them. It's a newer account."
There it was again. That tiny hesitation, that split-second gap where the truth didn't quite line up with the story. I nodded slowly. "All right," I said. She left around 7:30. I tried to go to sleep, but I couldn't. My mind kept replaying everything. The late-night texts, the hidden phone, the constant work dinners, the way she looked at me less, touched me less. At some point, I got up, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and sat on the couch in the dark. I don't know how long I was there before my phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a second, I thought about ignoring it. Then I opened the message. It was a picture. Just a picture. No text. No explanation. I stared at it, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. It was Lauren. There was no doubt about that. She was sitting at a table in what looked like a dimly lit restaurant. Across from her was a man I didn't recognize. They were close. Too close for coworkers. His hand was on hers, fingers intertwined like it was the most natural thing in the world. And Lauren, she was smiling. Not her polite professional smile, not the one she gave clients or coworkers. This was different. This was the smile she used to give me. My chest felt like it caved in. I zoomed in on the picture, hoping, stupidly, that I'd see something that proved I was wrong, that it was some kind of misunderstanding. But there it was, clear as day. Her hand in his thumb brushing against her skin, the way she leaned forward, like she didn't want to be anywhere else. Another message came through. Same number. This time it was text. "She told you it was a work dinner, didn't she?" My hand started shaking.
I didn't respond right away. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like the ground had dropped out from under me. A third message. "She's with my husband." That's when everything changed. Because suddenly, this wasn't just suspicion anymore. It wasn't just a gut feeling. It was real. It had a name, a face, a reality I couldn't ignore. I typed back before I could overthink it. "Who is this?" The response came almost immediately. "My name is Claire." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "I've been watching this for months," she wrote. I wasn't sure at first. I didn't want to believe it either. Months. That word hit harder than anything else. Not weeks, not a recent mistake. Months. "How long?" I typed. There was a pause this time. Then, "Since December." It was June. I felt sick. 5 months. 5 months of lies, of work dinners, of late-night texts and hidden calls. 5 months of me sitting there like an idiot, trusting her. Another message came in. "I'm sorry you had to find out like this." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because at that exact moment, I heard the faint click of the apartment door unlocking. Lauren was home. And suddenly, I was sitting there with a picture on my phone that could destroy everything. I looked up as she stepped inside, kicking off her heels like she always did, letting out that same tired sigh. For a split second, everything looked normal, familiar, like the life I thought I had was still intact. Then I looked back down at the screen, at the picture, at her hand in his, and I realized nothing was the same anymore, not even close. I didn't move when she walked in. I just sat there on the couch, phone in my hand, staring at the screen like it was going to change if I looked at it long enough. "Hey," Lauren said casually, dropping her purse on the counter. "You're still up?" Her voice sounded normal, too normal, like she hadn't just been sitting across from another man, holding his hand like it belonged there. "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone flat. Couldn't sleep. She walked into the kitchen, poured herself water. Same routine as always. I watched her every movement now, like I was seeing her for the first time, or maybe the first honest time. "How was it?" I asked. That question felt different now, heavier, loaded. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't care. "It was fine," she said, taking a sip. "Long, I'm exhausted." Same answer, same script. I nodded slowly, like I was accepting it. Inside, everything was screaming. I thought about calling her out right there, just throwing the phone on the table and watching her try to explain the picture, watching her panic. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was something colder, more calculated. I wanted to see how far she'd go. I wanted to hear her lie to my face while I already knew the truth. So I stayed quiet. She walked over, sat on the opposite end of the couch, tucking her legs under her like she always did. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she glanced at me. "You okay? You seem off."
The irony of that almost made me laugh. "I'm fine," I said. She studied me for a second, like she was trying to read something, then shrugged it off. "I'm gonna shower," she said, standing up. "I smell like restaurant food." I watched her disappear down the hallway. The second I heard the bathroom door closed, I looked back at my phone. There was another message from Claire. "Is she home?" I hesitated, then typed back, "Yeah." A few seconds later, "Did you confront her?" "No." 3 dots appeared almost immediately. "Good." That surprised me. "Why?" I asked. There was a longer pause this time, long enough that I wondered if she'd changed her mind about talking to me. Then, "Because if you do it now, she'll lie, and she'll get better at hiding it." I stared at that message. It felt experienced, like she'd already been through this part. "What do you want me to do?" I typed. Another pause. Then, "I want the truth, and I'm guessing you do too." I leaned back into the couch, running a hand through my hair. "Yeah," I wrote. "I do." "Then don't tip her off yet." I could hear the shower turn on down the hall, the steady rush of water filling the silence. "How long have you known?" I asked. This time, Claire answered faster. "I started noticing things in February. Late nights. Same excuses your girlfriend is using." Girlfriend. That word hit different now. "I didn't have proof until April," she continued. "That's when I followed him." I swallowed. "You followed him?" "Yes." There was no hesitation in her response. No apology. "And tonight?" I asked. "I followed him again." Of course she did. That picture wasn't an accident. It was intentional, calculated. She wanted me to see it. "Why send it to me?" I typed. The answer took longer this time. "I debated it for weeks," she finally wrote. "But you deserve to know. I wish someone had told me sooner." I stared at that message. There was something raw in it, something real. Not just anger, hurt. Deep, familiar hurt. "What's his name?" I asked. "Ethan." The name meant nothing to me. "What does he do?" "Consulting. Travels a lot. Or at least that's what he tells me." That almost made me scoff. Of course it did. Everything lined up too perfectly. "How long have you known it's been going on since December?" I asked. I checked his credit card statements. Same restaurant charges. Same nights he told me he was working late. I glanced toward the hallway, listening to the shower still running. Lauren had been doing the same thing. Same pattern. Same lies. Like they were following a script together. My chest tightened. "What now?" I asked. That question hung there for a while. When Claire finally replied, it wasn't what I expected. "I don't know." For the first time, she sounded unsure. "I thought having proof would make it easier," she added. "It doesn't." I let out a slow breath. "Yeah," I said. "I'm starting to realize that." Another pause. Then, "Can you keep pretending for a few days?" I frowned. "Why?" "I want to catch them again. Get more evidence. Something they can't talk their way out of." I looked down at the picture again. It already felt undeniable, but I understood what she meant. People like Lauren, they were good at twisting things, rewriting reality, making you question what you saw. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "I'll tell you," she wrote, "but I need to know you're in." I hesitated. This was crossing a line. Not morally, because honestly, that line had already been destroyed, but mentally. This wasn't just finding out the truth anymore. This was stepping into something messy, controlled, strategic. But then I thought about Lauren sitting across from that guy, smiling like I didn't exist. 5 months. 5 months of lies. "I'm in," I typed. Her response came instantly. "Good." Right as the bathroom door opened. I quickly locked my phone and set it face down on the couch. Lauren walked back into the living room, hair damp, wearing one of my old t-shirts. For a second, the familiarity of it almost broke me. She looked like the same person I'd fallen in love with. Same face, same body, same little habits. But now it all felt staged, like I was looking at an actor playing a role. "You're still up?" she said, a little surprised. "Yeah," she smiled, walking over and sitting closer this time.
Closer than she had before, like she was making up for something, or covering something. "You want to watch something?" she asked, resting her head lightly against my shoulder. That small contact sent a weird, conflicting wave through me. Part of me wanted to pull away. Another part, the part that still remembered who she used to be, didn't. "Sure," I said. She grabbed the remote, started scrolling through Netflix like everything was normal, like she hadn't just come back from another man. I sat there, staring at the screen without seeing it. All I could think about was the picture, her hand in his, the way she leaned toward him. And now she was here, leaning against me the same way. It made my skin crawl. "You're quiet," she said softly. "Just tired," I replied. She nodded, accepting it. Of course she did, because she had no idea I knew. And that gave me something I hadn't had in weeks: control. For the first time since this started, I wasn't the one in the dark. She was. And I wasn't going to give that up yet. Not until I knew everything. Not until I understood how deep this went. My phone buzzed again against the couch cushion. She didn't notice, but I felt it, and I knew it was Claire. Whatever she was planning, this wasn't over. It was just getting started. I didn't check the message right away. Lauren was still pressed against my shoulder, scrolling through shows like we were just another normal couple winding down after a long day. Every now and then she'd laugh at something on the screen, lightly tapping my arm like she used to, like we still had that easy rhythm. It felt surreal, like I was sitting inside a memory instead of real life. "Hey, this looks good," she said, pausing on some crime series. "You want to try it?" "Yeah," I said, even though I hadn't registered a single word she'd said for the last 10 minutes. She hit play, dimmed the lights, and settled in closer. And all I could think about was the phone buzzing under my thigh. Eventually, she got up to grab a blanket from the bedroom. The second she disappeared down the hallway, I grabbed my phone. It was Claire. "I think I know when they're meeting again." My pulse picked up immediately. "When?" I typed. "Saturday. 2 days away." "Same place?" I asked. "No, different restaurant this time. I've been tracking patterns." That word again. Patterns. Like this wasn't just emotional chaos anymore. It was something you could map out, predict, follow like a trail. "Where?" I asked. She sent the name and address. Upscale steakhouse, downtown. The kind of place people go when they want privacy, but still want to feel seen. 7:30, she added. That's when he told me he has a late client meeting. Of course he did. I felt this strange, cold clarity settle in, like everything was finally lining up into something real. "What's the plan?" I asked. There was a longer pause this time. Then, "We catch them together." I stared at the words. "Meaning what exactly?" I typed. "I go in, you go in. We don't give them time to explain. No excuses, no denial." My jaw tightened. I pictured it, walking into that restaurant, seeing her there with him, watching her face when she realized I knew. A part of me wanted that, badly. But another part hesitated. What if they just lie? I asked. Say it's business, or we're overreacting. "They won't," Claire replied. "Not with what I'm bringing." That made me pause. "What do you mean?" "I have more than just tonight's picture." I sat up a little straighter. "What else do you have?" "Photos, messages, enough that he won't be able to talk his way out of it." I exhaled slowly. Claire wasn't guessing. She was building a case. And now I was part of it. Lauren walked back in just then, holding the blanket. I locked my phone and set it down again. She curled up next to me, pulling the blanket over both of us, her leg draped casually over mine. "Warm enough?" she asked. "Yeah." She smiled, settling in. And for a second, I let myself look at her. Really look at her. Trying to understand how someone could live like this. How she could sit here, relaxed, comfortable, touching me like nothing had changed, when she'd just been with someone else hours ago. It didn't make sense. Or maybe it did, and I just didn't want to accept it. "You sure you're okay?" she asked quietly. I turned to her. "Why wouldn't I be?" She hesitated. "I don't know. You just feel distant." That almost made me laugh. Distant. "Long day," I said. She studied me for another second, then nodded. "Yeah, same." We watched the show in silence after that. At some point, she fell asleep against me. I didn't move. I just sat there, staring at the TV, feeling the weight of her head on my shoulder, and wondering how much of it had ever been real. The next 2 days were
strange. That's the only word for it. Strange in a quiet, controlled way. Lauren kept up her routine. Work, gym, occasional late calls she'd take in the other room. She acted normal, maybe even a little more affectionate than usual. More touches, more casual kisses, more I love yous thrown in at random moments. And every single one of them felt different now. Like they had an expiration date. Or maybe like they were part of a cover she didn't realize was already blown. Meanwhile, Claire and I kept texting. Not constantly, not in a frantic way. It was focused, intentional. We coordinated details, timing, where we'd sit, how we'd approach it. She even sent me a picture of her so I'd recognize her when I got there. Blonde, early 30s, sharp eyes. There was something in her expression that I recognized immediately. That same mix of anger and control I was starting to feel. Saturday came faster than I expected. Lauren started getting ready around 6. I watched her from the bed as she stood in front of the mirror, trying on 2 different dresses before settling on a black one I'd seen maybe twice before. It wasn't something you wore to a casual work dinner. Big client tonight? I asked, keeping my tone light. She smiled at me through the mirror. Yeah, potentially huge account. Nice, I said. You look dressed for it. She laughed softly. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I shrugged. Just looks fancy. She turned slightly, smoothing the fabric over her hips. First impressions matter. I nodded. Yeah, I guess they do. What time are you heading out? I asked. Soon, she said, grabbing her earrings. Why? Just wondering. She gave me a quick look like she was checking for something beneath the question. Then she smiled again. I won't be too late. That line almost broke something in me, because now I knew exactly what it meant. She grabbed her purse, walked over, and kissed me. Soft, familiar, automatic. I love you, she said. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't say it back. I just smiled faintly and said, drive safe. She hesitated, just for a second. Then she left. The second the door closed, I stood up. No hesitation this time. No second guessing. I grabbed my keys, my jacket, and my phone. Claire had already texted. I'm here. I replied as I headed out the door. On my way. The drive felt unreal. Like I was moving towards something inevitable. The city lights blurred past as my mind kept replaying everything. 5 months. All the nights she said she was working. All the times I trusted her without question. And now it was all leading to this. I pulled up to the restaurant around 7:20.
Took a breath, then walked inside. The place was exactly what I expected. Low lighting, quiet conversations, the kind of atmosphere where secrets felt comfortable. I scanned the room. And then I saw her, Claire. She was sitting at the bar, exactly like she said she would be. When our eyes met, she gave a small, knowing nod. I walked over. Mark? She asked. Yeah. Up close, she looked even more composed than I expected. Calm, focused. But her eyes, they were burning. Are they here? I asked quietly. She glanced toward the dining area. They just got seated. My chest tightened. Where? She gestured subtly toward the back. Corner table, left side. I swallowed. This was it. Claire stood, smoothing out her jacket. You ready? She asked. I looked at her, then past her, toward where Lauren was sitting with him. And for a second, everything slowed down. All the noise faded, all the doubt disappeared. There was only one thing left. The truth. Yeah, I said, and together we started walking toward it. The closer we got to that table, the quieter everything felt. Not literally. The restaurant was still full. Low conversations, glasses clinking, waiters moving around. But inside my head, it was like someone had cut the sound completely. I could see them now. Lauren was sitting with her back partially toward us, angled just enough that I could recognize the curve of her shoulder, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was listening. Across from her sat Ethan. He looked exactly like the kind of guy you'd expect. Early 40s maybe, clean cut, confident posture, the kind of calm presence that probably made people trust him without thinking too hard about why. They were leaning in slightly, not touching right then, but close enough that it didn't matter. Engaged, comfortable, familiar, like this wasn't new. Claire slowed her pace just slightly as we got within a few steps. Wait for my signal, she said under her breath.
I nodded, even though I wasn't sure I was breathing properly anymore. My hands felt cold, my chest tight. But my mind was clear in a way it hadn't been in weeks. No more guessing, no more wondering, just reality. Claire took one more step forward, then stopped, and then she spoke. Ethan. It wasn't loud, but it cut through everything. Both of them looked up at the same time. I'll never forget Lauren's face in that moment. At first, it was just confusion. Her eyes flicked from Claire to me, like her brain couldn't process why the two of us were standing there together. Then it hit her. Hard. You could actually see the moment it clicked. Her expression didn't just change, it collapsed. "Mark," she said, her voice barely holding together. What are you doing here?" I didn't answer her. I couldn't, not yet, because Ethan was already standing up, his chair scraping back slightly, his eyes locked on Claire. "Claire," he said, low and tense. Don't." She cut him off, sharp and controlled. "Don't even start." The air around the table shifted instantly. People nearby started to notice. Not obvious staring yet, but that subtle awareness when something isn't right. Lauren stood up slowly, her eyes still on me. "Mark, I can explain." "That's interesting," I said finally, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me, because I was just about to ask you the same thing. She froze. Her mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. Claire stepped closer to the table, pulling out her phone. "Go ahead," she said to Ethan. "Explain it. I'd love to hear this one." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, already shifting into damage control. "This isn't what it looks like," he said, glancing between both of us. There it was, the line, the universal, predictable lie. Claire actually let out a short, humorless laugh. "Really?" she said. "Because I've got 5 months of this not what it looks like. You want to try again?" Lauren's head snapped toward Ethan. 5 months. She hadn't known that part, not like this. Her composure started cracking faster now. "Mark," she said again, stepping toward me. "Please, can we talk somewhere else?" "No," I said immediately, firm, final. Her face tightened. "Not somewhere else," I continued. "Right here is fine." She looked around, suddenly aware of the space, the people, the exposure. "Mark, this isn't a work dinner," I cut in. That landed hard. Her entire body went still. For a second, she didn't look like she knew where to put her hands, where to look, how to stand. Ethan stepped in again, trying to regain control. "Look, this has clearly gotten out of hand." Claire turned to him so fast it shut him up mid-sentence. "Out of hand," she said, her voice low but sharp enough to slice through him. "You've been sleeping with her since December." That did it. No more gray area, no more room to twist it. Everything went silent at the table. Lauren's face drained of color. She looked at Ethan like she was seeing him for the first time too. "You told her," she whispered. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Claire lifted her phone slightly, not even showing it yet, just enough to make the point. "I didn't need him to tell me," she said. "You're not as careful as you think you are." I watched Lauren's eyes flicker. Panic, calculation, fear, cycling through faster than she could control. Then she turned back to me, and for the first time I saw it. Not confidence, not control. Fear. Real fear. "Mark," she said softly, stepping closer again. "I messed up, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far." That almost made me laugh. "Didn't mean for it to go this far. 5 months. Then how far did you mean for it to go?" I asked. She flinched. I don't know," she said. "It just happened." Claire shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "It didn't just happen. You made it happen, over and over again." Ethan exhaled sharply, clearly losing patience. "This isn't helping anything," he said. "We should all just calm down and talk." "You don't get to tell anyone to calm down," I said, finally looking directly at him. He held my gaze for a second, then looked away. That told me everything I needed to know about him. Lauren reached for my arm. I stepped back before she could touch me. That hurt her more than anything else so far. "I was going to tell you," she said quickly. "I was just trying to figure things out." "When?" I asked. "After 6 months, a year." She didn't answer, because there was no good answer. Claire stepped forward again, placing her phone on the table this time. The screen lit up. Pictures, messages, enough that no one at that table could pretend anymore. Ethan stared at it, his jaw tightening. Lauren didn't even look. She was still watching me. "Say something," she whispered. And that was the moment everything inside me settled. All the anger, all the confusion, all the questions, gone, replaced with something simpler. Clarity. "There's nothing left to say," I told her. Her face crumbled slightly. "Mark, please. I trusted you," I said, cutting her off. That was the whole deal. My voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. "You lied to me every day for 5 months," I continued. "You looked me in the eye, came home, sat next to me, slept next to me, like none of this wasn't happening." She started crying then. Not dramatic, just quiet, controlled tears that slipped out faster than she could stop them. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said.
That didn't stop you. She closed her eyes because she knew I was right. Claire picked her phone back up, stepping away from the table. "I'm done here," she said to Ethan. "You can figure out the rest of your life on your own." He didn't follow her. He didn't say anything. He just stood there, silent, exposed. I looked at Lauren one last time. 5 years. 5 years reduced to this moment. "I'll have your stuff packed by tomorrow," I said. Her eyes widened slightly. "You're kicking me out?" "I'm ending it," I said. "Call it whatever you want." She looked like she wanted to argue, to fight, but she didn't, because there was nothing left to fight for. I turned and walked away, didn't wait for her to say anything else, didn't look back. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. Claire was standing near the curb, arms crossed, staring out at the street. I walked up beside her. For a second, neither of us said anything. Then she exhaled. "Well," she said, "that's that." "Yeah," I replied. We stood there in silence for a moment, two strangers who had just watched their lives fall apart in the same room. "You okay?" she asked. I thought about it, about everything that had just happened, about everything leading up to it. "No," I said honestly, "but I will be." She nodded. "Same." A car pulled up to the curb. Her ride. She opened the door, then paused. "Hey," she said, glancing back at me. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you saw the picture." I nodded slowly. "Me too." She got in, and the car pulled away. And just like that, she was gone. I stood there for a while after, alone, but not in the same way I had been before, because now I knew the truth. And as much as it hurt, it was better than the lie.